can't really type that fast.
Myself and myself only. I've been like that since I was a kid. I've always put my feet wherever I want to. Before I saw who I could be, kept thinking, where did I go wrong? Then realizing where I do come from, was asking how real love should feel. Knowing that it's not just you, it's me. Cause I was made to be free.
7 days since my last upload. I really apologise to you. I didn't think it would bother that many people, but judging by some of the messages that I've had, I think some people have gone into therapy. I didn't realise TV was that bad. Here we go. I've got loads of questions that you lot have been firing in over the last 7 days. I just thought it's only fair to give you some feedback. You've taken the time and trouble to comment on these videos and ask me the questions, so at least I can do is answer them for you. So they're quite wide and varied. Hopefully it's not going to be done in too much of a big rush job for you, but hopefully it's going to help some of you out that have asked these questions. So here we go. What are your thoughts on using shot leaders for silverfish? I use shot leaders just about all the time. I used to use them across the board for everything, whereas now I've been experimenting a lot with casting at range, not in matches because I haven't been on any matches where I've had to cast at range, and I've actually taken a shot leader out now, and to gain that extra bit of distance I'm just using Bred straight through, which I'm still kind of playing with it and deciding whether it's right for me or not, but I always use shot leaders for silverfish. Do you think the colour of the feeder has an impact on your fishing? Yeah, why not? Why shouldn't it, you know? We look at everything. Some lads even go down to, you know, using hooks that are not silver or nickel or whatever. They like to use dark coloured hooks. We go down to that level of detail when we're pole fishing and float fishing. So of course, you know, your feeder is there. You know, even when it's got ground bait in it, obviously that can sometimes hide some of the feeder, especially with a thin wire cage feeder. But obviously when that ground bait comes out, it's exposing the feeder. So yeah, a big bright shiny feeder. Of course, I'm a big believer that that has an impact. How does the XDE rod differ from the original Horizon rod? I've said it before, but I'll say it again. I hate using the term, but it's the best term to use to describe exactly what I'm talking about, and that is the XD rod is a lot tippier than the original Horizon rod. I think it helps greatly in gaining extra range, and I didn't think it was going to be quite as good for the type of fishing that I do, and I didn't lose any fish with it either, so you know, it's still got that progressive, that soft action for when you're catching skimmers and bream. What is the typical hook length for catching skimmers? I always start at 50 centimetres. That's simple as that. You know, if I'm not getting bites or the fish are up in the water, I may extend that to a metre or whatever, metre and a half sometimes. But obviously in winter when fish aren't moving and I suspect I'm missing bites or I'm not seeing bites, then I might reduce that down to 50 centimetres where it's allowed. Will you be fishing any matches in Norfolk this year? I've only really got one match there, and that's on the River Yare, or the River Yar, depends how you pronounce it, and that's a Feeder Masters qualifier. No disrespect to Norfolk and that fantastic river that you've got there, but I kind of hope I'm not on that qualifier, because that will mean that I've already qualified in the previous qualifiers that I've got on other venues. So up to now, that's the only match I've got planned down there, but I'd love to fish down there more. It's just a bit of a trek from where I live in Sheffield, and there are that many things on the calendar, you just can't do everything you want to do. Do you ever use wafters and method feeder on boilies on natural venues? Yes. I don't fish many venues where we're fishing with method feeders on natural venues, purely because some of the venues that I fish that would be suited to that, it's not allowed. Obviously venues like Carmill and Ferry Meadows, it's allowed and they catch with it. So yes, whenever I've fished in those particular scenarios on those venues, I'm quite happy to use boilies, wafters and a method feeder. It's like anything, if that's the best method that's going to catch what you want to catch or win you the match, you've got to fish it, so I will fish it. How would you fish a shallow lake with a feeder that's approximately 3 feet deep and silty? Different answers to that. It depends on the venue, really. Obviously with silty bottoms, you've got to think about, you know, the type of feeder that you're using. You want one with quite a wide, if you can, you know, a wider surface area, and obviously one that's going to sit on any sort of a soft bottom. And obviously the lighter the feeder you can get away with, the better, because it's not going to sink into the silt. Sometimes silty venues have areas that are harder, you know, they might have gravel in them, so that might be worth looking for those areas if those areas exist. Silt tends to build up in certain areas of a lake, like the bottom of slopes and that sort of thing, and they can be real hot spots for silt, so you might want to try avoid those areas if you can, that is. But yeah, venues like that with soft silt and weed, sometimes the method feeder can be good. But obviously if it's really silty, then you might need to start looking at bigger baits that don't waft up off the bottom. I mean, I've spoke about fishing Boston in the summer months, and sometimes you might have a silty area, you're feeding dead maggots or micro pellets or something like that, and the bait can be wafted about as the fish are digging for food. And if you've got, you know, a fishing a feeder, a conventional feeder where you've got a hook length of this sort of length, that can be wafting about, and it can cause you all sorts of problems with liners and foul hook fish and all that sort of thing. So search out those harder areas. That's what I'd really say to that initially. Use a lighter feeder as you possibly can, and one with a wider surface area at the bottom of it, just to help encourage it to sit on any sort of silt. What's your opinion on the spom rule in matches? Why not? If that's a winning method and it's allowed and you're able to do that, then yeah, go for it. I would do it, you know, if it was allowed. The only thing is, on some of the venues, a lot of the venues I fish, it's not allowed, so we can't actually do it. When would you swap from maggot to worm and vice versa? That's one of those questions that you might have a clear idea that at certain months of the year when worm might be really effective, as opposed to when you use it other times of the year. And I'm sure we've all got those ideas, because I have. But obviously things like that change from day to day, so a lot of the time we're in matches, we're feeling his way into matches, and you'll try something, and if it works, just keep doing it. If it doesn't work, then that's when you start introducing chopped worm or maggot or vice versa. So there's no hard or fast rule to that, but yeah, there are certain months of the year when worm can be really effective, and I've got to be quite honest with you and say that does differ from venue to venue. How do you manage to handle and cope with having 2 sponsors? How do you decide what clothing to wear? There's no easy answer to that. I mean, I've currently got some clothing away being actually printed up now with Matrix and Bait Tech, just so that I don't have to worry about things like that. But yeah, it is an issue, and it's something that you've got to be very aware of, you know, when you're having cat shots done after matches. It's about getting a nice fine balance, you know. Unfortunately, sometimes the clothing for one particular sponsor may be more appropriate for times of year as opposed to your other sponsor, i.e. in winter. A lot of you will see my live match videos, I'm fishing outdoors, it's obviously been freezing cold, and obviously my Matrix gear is all weather, it's you know, it's built for the winter, and so obviously most of my videos I've got that on, whereas in the summer a lot of the time a lot of the clothing from Bait Tech is just a simple hoodie, or it might be t-shirts, and that's why in the summertime you'll probably see me in more Bait Tech t-shirts. It's just about keeping a nice balance and keeping your sponsors happy wherever you can. Do you ever use a feeder link? I haven't shown you many of the rigs that I've been using, but I will be doing in future videos. Yes, I went a long time without using feeder links. I only obviously use them when I'm using a free running rig, but I use a free running rig now probably 95% of the time now. I went through a period of about 2 years where I was just really confident in paternoster rigs, and I was getting results with that, so I didn't see any reason to change. But I did have 2 or 3 sessions back end of probably the summer last year, really, where I was getting indications and I was missing bites and just not reading the tip and the bites properly. Purely a personal thing. I switched back to the free running rig that I've been using all the time with the feeder links, and I just missed far less bites. I could read the bites better, I could set my tip better. It was just better for me. So now 95% of the time, yes, I'm using feeder links on a free running rig. How do you decide which lines to fish? I.e., if you're going to fish 50 meters, would you fish 60 meters? I always like to leave a nice gap between lines. I'm talking about set lines. I'm not talking about you've got one line and then you know, put a meter on or 2 meters on when you're chasing fish out. I'm not on about that sort of thing. I think this question kind of means if you're going to fish 2 lines, for example, how do you decide what range to have between those lines? It's purely a personal and very much a confidence thing as well. Assuming the peg is flat, it's level all the way, there aren't any differences in depth, then I like to keep the lines I like to keep them a minimum of 15 metres apart. Sometimes it's more than that, sometimes it might be 10. Sometimes you haven't got that much water to play with. Sometimes your peg might only be 30 metres wide if you're on a commercial. So obviously you haven't got that luxury of all that space. So your lines will be closer together, or obviously offset from each other to help increase that distance between them both. But I like a minimum of 15 metres. I'm going to have to get a coffee a bit. That's better. It's been a long day. I'm sorry this video's going on late tonight, but I promised you I'd have it done and I'd catch up on these questions. When you're using measuring sticks, do you peel the line off or do you use the drag on your reel? What do? I backwind. That's neither, is it? I backwind. I take the anti-reverse off, or whatever you call it, so the reel can, and I just do it with my hand, just control it. Obviously I don't go like that because it'll backwind and you're getting a mess in a tangle. I just backwind slowly and just count it. Take your time doing it, you know. And a little trick on that nobody ever seems to really talk about is count back as well. So when you go around your sticks, my sticks are 3 metres apart, so I've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, whatever, up to wherever you're fishing. And when you clip up, count them back as well. You'd be amazed how many times. It doesn't happen a lot, but what you'll tend to find is that the guy at the next peg, he might not talk to you all morning while he's setting up, but you can guarantee that when you step up to start clipping up like that, that's when he'll want to talk, so it's easy to lose count. Another question about the media side of things, I'll answer it really quickly. I've done it loads of times. Are you filming in 4K, 1920 or 1080, because the quality is better than I'm achieving with 4K? I'm shooting everything in 1080. A lot of it's GoPro. The computer I'm using, it's a MacBook Pro, and the editing software is Final Cut Pro X. You never really talked about the quantity of maggot and caster that you use in Ireland per day. You've got to take plenty with you, because certainly in a festival you obviously want to capitalise on the fish when they arrive, if they arrive, that is. So you've got to make sure you've got plenty of bait on you. Usually you don't want to take any less than 2 pints of each. So 2 pints of maggots, 2 pints of casters. Sometimes you'll have more. It depends on where you're going. Certainly don't take any less than that. How do you manage to keep different baits fresh? I'd like to do a video on this, because there's still a couple of things that I think I could improve on the way that I keep my bait fresh as regards the length that I keep bait. You know, you've got to have the facilities to do that. You've got to have a good fridge or garage floor and all that sort of stuff, depending on the bait that you're using. I'm a big believer in trying to manage your bait. Yes, I'm sponsored by Bait Tech, but that doesn't mean I mix 2 bags of groundbait up for every match and then chuck it in for the ducks at the end because I get it free. I've never done that. I measure my bait. I hate waste, and that goes exactly the same for maggots and casters and worms and that sort of thing. Just think about your bait, because fishing can be expensive enough as it is. You know, it's great if you're winning some money, but obviously if you've not spent as much to win that money, then that makes it even better, doesn't it? And there's nothing worse than having loads of bait left over to chuck away for the ducks to have, or chuck it in the margins. It just makes it more expensive, and it takes a lot of the enjoyment out of it. We're all doing this as a pastime. It's a hobby, it's what we love, it's what we work for, so we want to make it as enjoyable as possible. So as regards saving bait, I will do a video on it, but a lot of the dead maggots I used to bag them up. I now freeze them, but I don't freeze them for any longer than 2 weeks. Any more than that, they get bag burn. They're just not very good. I don't keep casters at all. I get them fresh, ready for the match that I'm going to get, and unless I'm fishing the next day, I won't save them. If I'm fishing the next day, I will save them. I'll just bag them up in an airtight bag and put them back in the fridge the minute I get home. And as regards worms, if you've got a garage floor, keep them in the sack on a garage floor, unless you're breeding them, that is. But I'll do a video on that just to try and explore every single bait. How often do you change your mono and braid on your reel? This is really down to, there's 2 variables as far as I'm concerned regarding that. One is the type of line that you're using. I've got to say it, there are brands out there that aren't as good as others. Some brands make mono and reel lines that are really, really durable and will last longer than certain other brands. I'm obviously not going to highlight them, but what I want to say is that will determine how often you change your reel lines. And the other thing is, it depends how often you're fishing. I don't fish a massive amount. I fish once a week, sometimes twice a week, and that is it. But obviously a lot of you will know I'm never out there pole fishing. It's very, very rare I fish with a pole, so every time I am out, my reels are getting a hammering, you know, so they do get a lot of work. So it depends on the line that you're using. You can tell when it's ready for changing. It'll either start kinking up, or you just run your finger along it. If there's any sort of damage or wear and tear on it, just change it. If you're a match angler, then you don't want to be taking chances like that. Some of the lines you can get out there are really really economical, and they can come on, you know, 300 metre spools or 200 metre spools or whatever. They can last you a long time. And let's be honest about it, again, I'm going back to just being economical, just like with your bait. Be economical with your line. Learn. If you buy your spools and they're on 150 metre spools, for example, on a 4000 reel, say it's a reel that you only use for short range work, or you fish on a commercial a lot where it's 25 metres wide, you don't need to put 150 metres on that reel, because you're never going to use the bottom half of that line, are you? So learn to count the turns on your reel. If you're using a little 3 or a 4000 reel and you're fishing a commercial with it, you know, a little method feeder short and that's the only thing you do, a spool that's 150 metres in length, you're going to get at least 2 lots out of that. So just learn to count the turns. Next time you go out, put a bomb on, whack it as far as you possibly can and count how many turns is on that. That'll give you a great guide. So when you put it on your reel, you can count to that number of turns and then put some extra on, obviously, but it's just another way of being more economical with the kit that you buy. Do you need a separate rod license for fishing in an island? Yes, you do. If you fish something like the world pairs, that sort of thing is all part of it. It's part of the entry and it's all done for you. So if you're going to go over there fishing, yeah, you need to check that out. Depends where you're fishing, north, south, but yes, you do need another license. Can you recommend any digs in Ballinamore? No, I can't, because every time I've gone, I haven't really stayed in digs as such. It's not been a hotel or a bed and breakfast or anything like that. It's always been like a house, because there's always been a group of us. But like I say, Island Travel Plus, just check them out. Send Helen Rainsford a message, she'll help you out if you're going over there. I don't know how many bed and breakfasts and digs and that sort of stuff they've got, you know. So unfortunately I can't help with that other than give you Helen's contact. I'll put the website link below for you. Can I have your old 36 box? It's not old, Mark Box. It's only a few months old anyway, and it still looks pretty new. No, you can't, I'm sorry. I think 3 people have asked that now since I've saw that. No, the reason why I've got an F25 is for a certain style of fishing that I'm going to be doing more of. So that's really for that. My 36 is going to remain my #1 box, and you will see evidence of that in all future videos. Do you always use braid or mono for fishing for skimmers and bream at 20 metres? Mono. I have done it. I have fished with braid. That short for skimmers and bream, I don't like it. I'll do it for small fish if you're catching roach or small, but not skimmers and bream. I think it's too harsh, too direct, not enough giving it at 20 metres, so I always use mono. How do you select the right tip weight for your session? It was a lady who asked this. I'm sorry I haven't got your name on this. Basically, there's no easy way to it. There's a little bit of experience when you look at your peg and knowing the venue, but basically if you're ever in doubt, as soon as you get to your peg, get the rod out, put a bomb on, whack it out to where you want to be fishing and put the rod down. Then while you're setting your trays up and all that sort of stuff, if the tip is too light, it'll be bent round like that because of the toe, and if it's too stiff, you'll know about it because it'll not move, it'll be like that, so you might want to step it down. So there's no easy answer to that other than just find out on the day and change it if it needs changing. How much do you decide to feed at the start of a match, i.e. ground bait? Bit of a vague one, that one, but in a nutshell, if I'm going to start fishing on a particular line, I don't feed that very heavy, because you're going to be starting on it, you know, so you're going to be topping it up and feeling your way into it. If it's a line I plan on leaving for an hour or 2 hours or whatever, like a big fish line or one where you're hoping a big pile of bream are going to settle on, then I'll feed more, because obviously you're not going to be going on it for an hour, so there's got to be enough feed there to keep them there for an hour. How much time do you spend a day on your tattle and editing videos? This has gone on a little bit late tonight, and that's because I've been getting my kit ready for Sunday's match. So it's just a balancing act. People think it takes me a lot longer to make these videos and shoot and produce everything. It can take a long time. It's one of those issues where you can spend forever on a video trying to perfect it, get it just right. But if you find you're going down that avenue, you'll probably never ever upload anything in your life ever again, because you can try and improve something forever. So this is a rough and ready channel, you know that. I try to provide content rather than making it look too cinematic for you, and I'm sure you've all noticed. So it's getting a nice balance, but I mean, a kit, I'm a feeder angler, I'm relatively on top of my kit. Preparing for a weekend, it might take me 2 hours, 3 hours throughout the week if I've got hook lengths to do and set rods up. Videos, I can spend as much time as I want on these, you know, but it might be 4, 5, 6 hours a week. It just purely depends on what I'm working on. Have you ever thought about doing this and going full time? I'm at a position now where it's certainly an option. I could do it now, I'll be totally honest with you, but I'm not 100% sure about how I want to do it. You know, there are ways I can make a living from this now, and I'm obviously in a full-time job on a full-time wage, but it takes up 5 days a week, where obviously I could be spending some of that time out there on the bank producing more and better videos, bigger number of videos, and there's other avenues to pursue as well as regards my coaching and all that sort of stuff that I'm doing. So yeah, it's now become an option, but it'll be a massive decision for me, and it's one that I'm still working on. Can I just say that we're loving all the tattle room basically, I've been amazed about how many people out there like yourselves that are viewing that don't mind this tattle room environment. I'm amazed, because there are a lot of fishing channels out there that are just about fishing, and that's great. It's just about being on the bank, and a lot of those channels are incredibly successful, and I know that. But I've never done any of this to copy anybody. I've just tried to do my own thing, and it seems to be working. It seems to be something that you like, and I know I've been amazed by how many people have preferred this to the live match stuff, but obviously there are people that like the other as well, so it's going to be an ongoing balance of the two. I'm over the moon you like this stuff, because as you know, I work Monday to Friday. I can only get on the bank probably once, sometimes twice a week, so that limits the time that I can get on the bank and produce something from the bank. So this is a massive boost to me, because it just enables me to give you guys content like these, what you've sent in, to help you out, and hopefully the format is a little bit entertaining. Do you ever use a picker rod like we do in Denmark and Sweden? No, we don't. We did as a kid, and that's how I grew up. I remember, what was one of the rods? My good mate David Revitt, I think he had one, a Sigma wand. It was only about 9 foot, 8-9 foot, which back then was an amazing rod to use. We were fishing local venues, fishing short and stuff for roach and perch. Fantastic rods, but we very rarely use them now. Very rarely I use a rod shorter than 11 foot. Just purely because I've got used to that length, even when I'm fishing at 14 and 15 metres. It's a nice soft rod, and I'm just used to the balance of that now. I do have an 8 foot little pig, but I just don't fish the venues where that will come into play. But I mean, it is a cracking rod, that. But no, we don't do it very often, you know. And yeah, I suppose it's a bit of an old school method now, that. What are your thoughts on spodding for bream? Again, just like the spom question. If that's what it takes to win, then, and it's allowed, then yeah, I'll do it. It's just I've never had to do it. I tend to, if I do feed a lot at range like that, then it tends to be with a cage feeder and a specialised feeding rod to do that. But yeah, if I was going to evaluate to work, I'd certainly do it. Anything to win, as long as it's within the rules. And the last question is one that I keep getting asked all the time now, you know, and it's just about people are asking how I managed to keep up my enthusiasm and hunger for this and my fishing. It's something that, you know, when the alarm clock goes off on a Monday morning, I bet you hit that snooze button a few times, because I know I do. But when that alarm clock goes off 2 hours before that, earlier than that, on a Saturday or Sunday, you virtually lie awake waiting for it to go off. And that's because I'm off going to do something that I really love. And when you're doing something that you really love, you're more passionate about it, you're more entitled to do it, and it makes it more enjoyable to do. So I'm just loving my fishing. I'm loving being on the bank, and I'm loving improving on everything that I do, you know, and improving and chasing goals. I mean, that's the thing for me. I only ever really told one person this a couple of years ago, and people talk about things that, you know, change, turning points in your life and things like that. One of them for me was seeing this photograph, and there were the 3 teams that went over to Holland to fish the Ghent and Canal in the International Feeder Challenge. The eagle-eyed ones amongst you'll notice I'm not on that photograph. That photograph really wound me up, you know, because that was when I realised I really wanted to be on the next photograph of that, you know. And I didn't tell anybody at the time. I've told somebody since then, only one person, and that photograph was actually on my phone. It was my screensaver on my phone for 6 months. And every time I looked at my phone, I just knew what I wanted to do, you know. And once I had that clear goal, that clear target, then, you know, once you've got that sort of idea, you know what you need to do to get there, or try your very best to achieve it. And for me, for 6 months I had that photograph on my phone, and thankfully the next time that photograph was taken, I was on it. I was fortunate enough to be selected to fish under the Drennan Barnsley Blacks team, and you know, it was an incredible experience. It was great to meet all the people out there, and it was great to fish against It was just great to fish on that international stage in the company of all those foreign anglers and see their styles, the way that they fish, the way that they, you know, manage their bait, and just the way that they are and conduct themselves on the bank. You know, incredible experience. And you know, that could have only been achieved by just kind of realizing that's what I wanted to do. I'm sorry this has gone on later than what I planned, but I had to get through these questions for you because I owe it to you guys for giving me this content. That's it. I hope you've enjoyed tonight. I hope I've answered some of your questions that you've sent in. If I haven't, just comment below and we'll do it again next week. Really appreciate you watching. There's loads more coming. Get subscribed up if you haven't already. There's loads of competitions coming up, loads of events, loads of exciting videos, some new projects that I'm working on, and this is just a massive new part of the journey, and I want you lot to follow me on it. So get subscribed up. Thanks for watching. Guess what? It's almost the weekend, and I hope I'm going to see some of you on the bank. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
Still thinking how real love should feel when I know that